Welcome to the Conveying Stories podcast powered by Araujo Attorneys. Man, I'm excited for today's episode. We've got a very special guest. The whole point of this Conveying Stories podcast is basically to share some great stories of how some charities got started, maybe learn a couple of lessons from a couple of business leaders, and just really have a good time with our guests and learn some more about them. And maybe you guys can get going on some new ventures. Who knows? So today's guest is Paula Owen. Paula Owen is the founder of Summerhill House, which is a great business venture, or not business venture, charity venture, should I say, which you'll be learning more about today. Paula, welcome to the Conveying Stories podcast.
Thank you, Rolf. So good to be with you.
Thanks so much for making the trek all the way from Belito.
Oh, easy.
Paula, why don't you start by telling us just a bit more about sort of where you grew up? Are you a Natal girl, born and bred, or you came down from Joburg? Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Well, I'm actually a Zimbo. I was born in Zim.
Okay, you learn something new every day.
I know. But we moved from Zim when I was 3. So I really grew up in Durban most of my life. On the Berea, I used to walk to school up the road. It was a beautiful upbringing. And then after I got married, 22 years ago, we moved from Durban out to Belito. Okay. When Belito really was a tiny little seaside town.
Yes.
So, that's kind of been where I've lived my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez, I remember when we moved to Belito, was it 13 years ago? And really, I mean, there was nothing there. There was a lot of sugarcane and
absolutely.
It was interesting to see it grow the way it has.
Totally.
Driving down Belito Drive with all those billboards, it almost reminds me a bit of the Las Vegas Strip. You have all these shining billboards and everything.
Yeah.
So, but it's exciting to be part of that growth, which is
100%.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And when you were growing up, what did you want to be?
Oh gosh, that question always makes me smile because I remember distinctly being in the back seat of my mum's car, and as kids you always ask each other those questions, what do you want to be? And I remember friends of mine having quite extravagant answers, but mine has simply always been a mom.
Okay.
And so I've always just wanted to be a mom. I've had a great history, a great role models in my parents, and so obviously I wanted to be a mother to my own children and be at home and a homemaker, I suppose. But I think, God has called me to more than just my own children. A mother to many, I think.
Yes, and that's where we are today with Summerhill House. So tell us a bit more about how did you stumble upon actually let's go back a step. What, where, and what is Summerhill House?
So Summerhill, but I'll just simply put it out there, is really, it's a children's home in a basic sense, but it's really a space to create family for those children that have really not been born into family situations, or they've had to be removed from terrible situations. So it's a long-term foster care facility, and where we care for children in the long term. And the other half of us is really community-based. And I think that's really transpired from walking the streets when we first started, identifying need, and just being present, filling in the gap for the need in the community. And we never wanted to abandon that when we got to our village. We never wanted to abandon our neighbors. And so, half of us is community-based and the other half is long-term care of children. Yeah.
Sure. And how did it start? So what is the sort of origin story of Summerhill House? Like must be...
How much time do you have, Rolf? More than 25 minutes. So I think really simply, growing up at school in the 1990s, I had a really strong heart for social justice, because at that time in my life, it was the end of the apartheid era in our country. There was a lot of talk around that and politics and a huge discrepancy between the haves and the have-nots. And we've all forgotten the time, but it was very relevant to me. At the same time was the height of the HIV/AIDS pandemic.
Yes.
And so as a young teenager living through that, with those two big things happening on our doorstep, to be honest, South Africa was a hot point for that. I have always had a strong social justice. I wanted to do something. I knew what obviously developed later on in my life. But when we moved to Ballito, quite simply, really God had brought Gogo Esther, into our home as my helper. And so she was my domestic, and I was a young woman of like 28, and we just became best friends. As much as I was her boss and she was my employee, we were best friends, and we still are today. But I was struggling to have children, and so I'd weep and pray for my own children, and she'd be weeping and praying for the next person that had died, or a child that had died or passed away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my prayers are just like nothing compared to yours, like in the need. So I was so interested in that. And at the same time, the church that we were going to encouraged us as home cells to cross borders and break barriers. So stop meeting in your little holy huddle as a home cell and get out there.
Yeah.
And Ballito back then, just as you explained, was just sugarcane all the way down to, I think, the beachfront houses, really. But the N2 running through that, the N2 freeway, for me, was the greatest divide. It was the greatest border. It was the greatest barrier. Because no one wanted to cross it. It was like an area of no man's land. Oh, you don't go like into the community. And yet I had this beautiful woman whom I trusted and who was my friend. And I was like, man, I'm going to cross this border, go over the barrier and see what's on kind of like the other side. And so we did. I started walking the streets with her, walking through her community, just taking what we had in our hands, simply, or excess in our homes, or extra clothes, food, whatever. And we just started walking the streets together and visiting families and getting to know people and the need in our community. And honestly, simply, that's kind of how Summerhill started. Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, I've met Gogo a couple of times, and she's just... she is just an amazing person, much like yourself, just absolutely phenomenal, and such a massive heart.
Yeah, she does.
And so Summerhill, where you guys are based at the moment, how did you buy the land, or how did that come about?
That's a miracle in itself, really. So when we needed to we identified what was going on in the community, it was then that the desire for a proper children's home was prompted in my own heart. I had traveled with friends and into Uganda to see what was happening there with Watoto. Out of that trip, incredible things happened. Liv was birthed, really, out of that trip. Summerhill and Ganiyami up in Hillcrest. So out of one trip, there was a lot that was birthed into our nation. But in trying to formalize what we were doing and finding land, which is always a tricky thing in the middle of a community, title deeds, and it miraculously was a piece of land that Palm Lakes had bought as a buffer zone between actual Palm Lakes and the community. And we were a little slither of a wedge that was actually owned by them. So that's been a long-standing gift from them, really. We've had a lease and our zoning's all done with the municipality. And so it's all red tape, all tied up, done and dusted.
Sure. And for those of you who don't know, that is in Itete, basically you go through Shaka's Head and you get through, and it's on the road. You have a nice sign there, and you can actually see it from the road.
Yes,
it's a beautiful,
very accessible,
very beautiful piece of land. And you've got those action, those Astros there. And that was always part of the plan, to have sort of something, for the kids to play. And
so I think we've always seen ourselves as an oasis in the middle of a community. I mean, that's how we like to see ourselves, as a place of safety, a place of refreshing, of rest, for the children and people, families, gogos, whoever's in need to come to us. But the Astro and our Astro field was really a donor that came and built our first home, or I think it was actually our second home. They came and they supported us by building our second home in our village. But they said, we approached them and said we needed a playground for our community. And we had done all the costings with, oh my gosh, what it's going to do to lay the grass and then water it, and somebody to keep it like that. But anybody knows that even in your own home, when your kids are up and down, soccer, cricket, whatever it may be, you're going to end up with a dust bowl. So they, just because they are a huge organization, they had lots of practice in the past and just said Astro is the way to go. And they came with this most incredible Astro soccer pitch. And so it looks like an oasis now.
It does, really
it's not just
does.
but it looks like one. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Awesome. So you mentioned, the first house and second house. How many houses do you have at the moment?
We currently have got 2 up and going and fully functioning. So that's 6 children in each home. We absolutely love and adore our house mothers, because at 2 children, I was like, done. So, gosh, they really are golden, really. So 6 children in each home. And we've just completed our 3rd and waiting for our house mother to get the right house mother, and also for her to get all her paperwork. Okay. So it's exciting.
I can imagine finding the right house mother is also, so you don't want to just get anyone in there. You need to be sure that it's the right person with the right heart.
The heart is
the most
is the winner.
Part,
for sure.
And with those 3 houses, how long? I mean, so there's 6 children per house. How long do they stay there? What is there until 18, or what is their sort of average stay?
So our mandate really is our children come to us between the ages of 0 and 3. For us, we feel that they're young enough to really work with, mold, impart into their lives, OT, speech and language, all those from pre-education really. So they come to us at that age, and unlike a CYCC where they have to leave at the age of 18, our vision is not that. I mean, my 20-year-old is honestly still a baby in the world's eyes. And so our heart is that we would transition our kids at 18. They will always be coming home, Rolf. And that's a reality. That Summerhill will be home for them. And so you're talking about children that have no parents. And so our vision is to actually get a separate piece of land or even a home and create a digs environment. So those that are here, they're working locally, or they may be studying locally. Some might be away, but they want to leave home at that age. They're ready to leave home, but they still will have oversight. They will still be accountable. They will still be inputted into to transition into the world.
I think that transition is so important. You don't want to sort of just give them a good foundation and then say, well, toodle-doo. You can't do that. So if there's anyone listening who has a piece of land, get in touch with Paula.
100%. That has title deeds.
That has title deeds, yes. And tell me, how big is your team? How big is your Summerhill House team?
So we've got, really Summerhill runs on our team. I think, without our mums, we can't have the children. Without a social worker, we can't do our work. So our team is currently about 12 strong.
Okay.
That's including our house moms, everybody on the payroll. A fundraiser, full-time fundraiser, admin that goes into a non-profit. Currently we got 12 of us.
Sure. And like you said, the team is so important. And it's so, the heart is such an important part in such a venture, such a charity. Like
100%.
Even your fundraisers, and like I said, Gogo and the house mothers, they all have met them, and they're all phenomenal people. Well done on building a strong team, and I wish you all the best in building as the houses grow. Is there space for another house, or have you sort of reached capacity?
No, I think so. The full vision originally was 4 homes, but we've realized that in the space that we do have, we're going to stop at 3 because kids need space as we realizing as they're growing. Small example is, I think my oldest kid is 13. And he's needing quiet time. He's needing space to do work in the afternoons and the evenings. And with 6 children in a small home, it's near to impossible. So we're going to transition our 4th earmarked home into more of a resource center. Movie nights on a Friday night, but that space would be homework, quiet space, any OT, that kind of support system. We've got space to actually do that. And then a long term for our children that can't mainstream, which is a reality for us. Some will battle to mainstream into schools. It will be a space to actually be tutored, online, at home. Yeah, it will be that kind of space. So we're going to cap it at 3 and have a resource space for them. Yeah.
Okay. And so the community center as well. So they, I mean, all the kids from the surrounding communities come, as I understand it, sort of on a, I don't know, every second Friday or something for a bit of a feeding scheme, or or tell us a bit more about the community center.
Yeah, well, it's June, July now, and we've just kicked into holiday feeding. Yeah. So that's a big, I think whatever we do out of the community center is built on a reason. There's always a why behind what we do. It's not just for the sake of doing it. So one of our programs that runs from that community center is holiday feeding, and that's when the schools stop feeding. Traditionally, obviously during term time, they get a meal at school. Well, they should be. But during the holidays, that doesn't happen. So they come to us. We cook a hot meal every day. We've got a program that runs from 10 until lunchtime, and that's like a holiday club, a traditional holiday club. It's a place of safety. Parents know that they can come every day to somewhere, that they're not on the street or going to the beach or to the rivers or on the street jawling. So they come to us. It's loads of fun. It's hard work. About 100 up to 180. I think we had over 200 last holiday, and we had to cap it because we need to on a daily basis. So we had to cap it, but that's the need. And we saw, sadly, this last holiday, very small kids coming. And so I don't know what's actually changing out there. But yeah, so that's holiday feeding. But then every week is reading, homework support. So it's all after school support for the community, for the kids. And these are kids that want to come down. We're not begging, asking. It's clearly just children that want the support.
And so that sort of homework support, who sort of runs with that? Like, is there someone, a dedicated person on your team that runs with the homework support?
So Krafi is our community. She works underneath Gogo, and so she runs those programs. If no one arrived, it would be her trying to do maths and science and whatever it may be. But we are so grateful for our volunteers. Honestly, without them, we wouldn't really exist successfully. It would be a place for them to come, but successfully, the volunteers are incredible. So they've really, we've linked in with City Hill Church, have come on board on the reading side. They've upskilled our staff and volunteers with a proper measurable reading program. And so, because that's what we found, our kids in grade 7 tick on their report, but they can't read. Hence can't understand the homework question. And so circle. Exactly. And so we thought that reading is a dead cert.
Well, I love that quote is readers become leaders,
100%. They do.
That's if you give them a good grounding there, that's giving them a good springboard into life.
100%.
And Paula, who are some of your sort of mentors? I mean, starting something like this doesn't just happen overnight, as you've described. You started small with Gogo on the street, but were there some business mentors that helped you along the way?
So I would have said that Gogo was definitely a mentor in my life. I think she just taught me not necessarily what we were doing, but why we were doing things and how to do things in the community. But over and above her, I would actually have to say my husband has been an incredible mentor. He gave me my first job, so we go that far back.
Awesome.
I made a mistake and I studied the wrong thing when I left school, and then I was just desperate to start working and earn money, and so he gave me my first job. We only hooked up way later, but he's a serial entrepreneur, and so everything to do with business, business, figures, accountability, integrity, operating has really come from him, to be very honest. But I'm proud to say that because it's been a great team, a team thing too.
So what was that first job? Now you've intrigued my interest.
My first job was so instead of waitressing to earn extra bucks or whatever we did back in the day, I was modeling, but I was modeling for his sister who owned Models International. And then I said to Lisa, I'm hating what I'm studying. Like, if you hear of anybody that looking for a job, and she said, funny, my brother's looking for a fabric buyer. I'm like, awesome, I'll take it.
That's cool.
I'll learn anything. And so I went for the interview the next day, and I remember phoning my brother and saying, how much would a fabric buyer earn? He's like, I don't know, about 2,400 Rand. So I got there, and in my interview, my husband said, you can start tomorrow, 1,700 Rand. I was like, okay, because I was so young and naive. And that was it. But it was, honestly, I learned, back then it was fax machines. I remember trying to fax color samples through on a fax machine. So blonde. Yeah. But honestly, the fundamentals of business, you see, you can laugh at that. My friends will all be laughing. But someone's got to teach you. Yeah. And that was my learning. Yeah. And it stood me in good stead. And we speak business today every day of our lives. We have a download, and it's awesome. We can bounce stuff off each other all the time. So,
and also just going back to what you started out studying. What was that?
Oh, I really wanted to be a phys ed teacher.
Okay.
And I ended up. I had to go and study away, and I had been at boarding school, and I just was like, Mom, I just want to come home. And so I did a CIS, Chartered Institute of Secretaries, which was, back then I thought, that's business something, but it was way too high level for me, and I knew I didn't want to do that every day of my life. So it was during that, after my first year, I was like, I'm tapping out. Okay. Yeah.
So kudos to you to actually have the guts to actually then just make that decision to move out. Like some people do something and then just do it because it's the right thing to do, because their parents said they must study that. Or,
I know. Well, I don't know. I'm hoping my children are gonna don't know what they're gonna do
children
to me.
Children aren't allowed to listen to this. No.
But my parents are very old school, and so that was hard.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah.
So Paula, being such a busy lady and charitable heart and everything, how do you balance your work and life? Sort of how does that balance come around, or do you not have balance? You just go all in, and then how does that work?
Oh gosh, how does anybody balance work and life? Don't have the answers for you, Rolf. But I don't know. I think as a team, my husband and I, we love work. Marketplace and work is we very stimulated by it. So I think we are full throttle in that, but we definitely carve out time for family. I think, and it's something that I really speak to my staff about, is no point in looking after a community of children but neglecting your own back home. So that's we really do. We carve our time for family, and we stimulated and refreshed by being with our kids. So it's family time, I think. Walk on the promenade together, just fresh air. But I can't tell you how we wake up and we spend quiet time and then exercise. And
that was going to be my next question. Any morning routines?
No, I can't tell you that we're really faithful. That kind of shot in the dark, haphazard. But one thing I just do know is I can't, lack of sleep really wrecks me. If I don't have a good sleep, then I just don't function well. So for me, my husband's a night owl. So, I'm really protective about my sleep. Otherwise I can't function. I think it's true to many people as well.
I think it's probably a 50-50 split, but I think I'm sort of in the middle. I don't know. I've often had that question, are you a night owl or are you a morning person? And I love the mornings, but also I do well at night as well. So I think I'm a hybrid. So, just taking a step back and looking at sort of the children, obviously emotionally invested. Does that not take a lot out of you? You have 12 or 15 or whatever kids there. How do you replenish your emotional sort of, is that just family time? Is that how you sort of replenish your energy?
I think so. I think there's certain people can work on the front line. It's like first responders. I always admire them so much. But I think you need to be a certain character to work on the front line. In that, I must be detached in some way, compassionate, totally, but detached in some way. Otherwise, I'd fall apart probably every day, or my whole team would fall apart every day. I think, and in different phases, it was all very much children, focused on the children and with the children, but now it's managing team. So I think, businesses and even nonprofits go through different phases. So personally for me, it's really refreshing is family time at home, carving time out for family. And like I said, I think that's true to my whole team, because you can't sacrifice your own for the sake of others. I don't believe that's God's way. First at home and then outward.
And I mean, talking about sacrifice and sort of different phases of the journey, COVID.
Yes.
How were you guys affected by COVID?
Yes.
How did you survive COVID?
Gosh, it was just a real mind blow for all of us, I think. We just saw the need completely change in our community. So whilst we are very children focused, we had to just completely mind shift change to the need that was on our doorstep. And so Gogo was operating full throttle because she lives across the road next door, and I had a permit, so it was just her and I really flying solo. We wanted our staff at home. But then it was a gap to feed. It was mostly food provision into the community. That's what really came our way. And so we just saw the need change in the community. So that was the basic need.
And what sort of life lessons would you impart to our listeners or our viewers? Is there anything specific? Like, is there a mantra or anything like that you sort of have that, that gets you through tough moments or inspires you?
No, maybe I've touched on it a little bit already, but for me, in the sphere that I work in, and we've all heard it before, of charity starting at home, because I'm in charity work, I just think that it's important not to sacrifice home for what you're doing. And so something like giving or being generous, if you can't be generous to your own children, be it financially or time, or you can't be generous with your time or your finances externally if you are not doing it at home. And so for me, first and foremost, it starts at home, and only then can it really spread from there.
I really do love that. And are you reading any interesting books at the moment?
I love reading, but reading is like an escape zone for me. Don't give me a self-help book because it's my downtime.
I was going to give you a good to great.
Good to great. There we go. If I read, I honestly really get stuck into my Bible, and if it's not that, then it's a good novel or something that is not serious at all. I think just in the line of work that I'm in, it's something that's just complete escapism. I'm reading. I love reading, biographies, or even there's a lot of Indian authors and Indian subjects, and the hardship coming out of India and medical, and I actually just love that. Like, my friends are like, oh gosh, it's going to be a sad book, and I'm like, no, but look at this. I just love that kind of thing.
And your favorite verse out of the Bible? Do you have one?
Yes, I do. Joshua 24, I think it's 15. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
I love that. Jeez. I have one which got me through COVID. It's 1 Peter 5 verse 7. It's cast all your anxiety on him, then for he cares for you.
Totally.
That was a big one.
That was a big one, especially for COVID.
So Paula, I mean, we had your golf day just the other day, Summerhill House Golf Day, which was phenomenal, massive success. For those of you who weren't involved, next year you guys have got to get involved.
Yes,
be involved. Really fun, awesome format, and just such a good cause. And then what are some of the other ways that people can get involved in Summerhill House? I mean, you have your donor tree.
Yes.
Maybe touch on that, and just how can people get involved?
I think, as we know, money makes the world go round. So 100%. That's always number one for us. And for us, every rand, every cent, Rolf, we've always said that helps. So we've got a beautiful we're all about family. That's our main drive for our children in our village and in our homes. So we've got a huge family tree actually visibly on site, which you would have seen. And every branch has kind of got a little handprint. And we really encourage everybody to get involved with debit orders from 100 Rand a month for a year commitment, and your name goes onto that leaf on the tree. And that's, from 100 Rand upwards to strategic partners who give. Everything just makes the wheel go round. So that's the financial side. And goods. I mean, we survive on food donations, clothing donations, household donations. That also goes a long way. Yeah. And then over and above that, our volunteers really, as years have gone on, have really become strategic for us. They get us through holiday feeding. Extra hands, extra eyes. When the moms are tired in the village, to come alongside them and go, great, we take the kids for an hour and we're going to do something planned play is just so refreshing. I mean, every mother would just be like, thank you. Thank you.
Can the volunteers come to my house?
Exactly. So, volunteers are playing a great part. And we love that. I mean, a lot of the schools are coming for their comm hours. And they are representations to our kids of young people doing good things. Yeah, and wonderful. So, we love that. So volunteering, financial expertise, areas of expertise, accounting, websites, those marketing. We rely on people's expertise because we don't have it all. Or, even speaking into our team.
That's awesome. So where can people get hold of Summerhill House? Do they get hold of you? Do they get hold of Lee or Fundraiser or Gruffy or Community?
We are all available, but we obviously all got our departments. I think the first, you can reach us on our socials, at Summerhill Kids on Instagram or Facebook. Our website has a lot of information on it if you're just wanting to find out a bit more about us. But otherwise, myself, Lee as a fundraiser, or Erica even, Okay, awesome. All of us are available as a team. Oh,
well, Paula, thank you so much for coming today. I really
Thanks,
appreciate
Rolf.
it. And I really do encourage everyone just to go and have a look at the website. It's actually very easy to go and make donations. There's a link on there which is a quick pay link type of thing. And it really is just such a phenomenal organization to be involved in, and one that we are very proud to have an association with. And like I said, all you golfers out there, next year you better be there. It was a phenomenal day out. We came second. I'll just throw that in there. But thanks so much for listening, everyone, and watching. Please go share, like, comment on this post wherever you see it. It means the world to us, gets us some traction, gets Summerhill House some traction, and they are already such a massive part of the community out there in Ballito. So really I do encourage you to go and follow them, like them on socials as well, which always helps their needs as well. And just communication, like you do have those lists that you send out every now and then with those grocery the wish lists essentially, which people can see and get involved in. So thanks so much for watching. Until next time, Prost.